What is a person but a collection of memories? Our triumphs, our failures, our loves, our regrets, they are the threads that weave the tapestry of the self. But what if you could unpull a thread? What if you could sell a painful memory? A shameful secret? A childhood trauma? And in exchange, receive a clean slate and a brighter future? In the world of NIMI solutions, the past is just another commodity. For a price, they offer freedom from the ghosts that haunt us. But some ghosts refuse to be exorcised. Some threads, when pulled, unravel everything. The following narrative is a work of fiction. Any similarity to real persons, living or dead, is strictly coincidental. This is the memory donor.
The dream always began with laughter, not his own, but the bright, carefree sound of a child he didn't know. It was a sound that should have been joyful, but in the strange logic of sleep, it was a harbinger. Daniel Cross, 38 years old and a master of controlled realities, would feel a familiar dread uncoil in his stomach. Then came the second sound, the sharp, crystalline crack of breaking glass. It was never loud, but it was absolute, slicing through the laughter and leaving a vacuum in its wake. The silence that followed was the worst part. A heavy, profound stillness that was immediately swallowed by the cold, rushing sound of water. He was awake. His eyes flew open to the blue-tinged moonlight filtering through the bedroom window. His chest was tight, his heart hammering against his ribs. Beside him, his wife, Jennifer, stirred. "The dream again?" she murmured, her voice thick with sleep. Daniel nodded, the motion stiff. He ran a hand over his face, the phantom weight of guilt settling upon him. It was a feeling without a source, an emotional ghost that haunted the edges of his consciousness. He had no memory of a lake, of breaking glass, of a child's laughter cut short. He had no memories of his childhood at all, not before the age of 12. He'd sold them in college for tuition money, a transaction as common in their world as taking out a student loan. It was a clean, simple trade, a past he didn't need for a future he wanted. And for years, it had been a good trade. He was a success, as a corporate consultant specializing in organizational restructuring. He was a high-priced hatchet man. He helped companies trim the fat, which was a sterile way of saying he decided who lost their jobs. He was good at it because he believed in his own mantra. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. He could sit across from a man who had given 30 years of his life to a company and feel nothing but the clean logic of the bottom line. He was detached, efficient, and ruthless, qualities that had made him very wealthy. That detachment was his superpower, or so he'd thought. It was at his daughter Emma's 8th birthday party that the first crack appeared in the placid surface of his life. He was manning the grill in their sprawling suburban backyard, the picture of a contented father. He watched Emma playing by the edge of their pristine swimming pool, her laughter echoing in the bright afternoon sun. It was the same sound from the dream. For a single, heart-stopping moment, the world fractured. The image of his laughing daughter was replaced by a flash of breaking glass. Then the horrifying stillness of her small body at the bottom of the pool. The cheerful sounds of the party faded to a dull roar in his ears. He dropped the tongs with a clatter. He didn't think, he reacted. He sprinted across the lawn, shouting her name, a raw, primal sound that silenced the party. He scooped her out of the shallow end, his arms trembling, his dress shirt instantly soaked. Emma, sputtering and terrified, burst into tears. "Daddy, what did you do that for?" she cried, her small fists beating against his chest. "I was just playing." He held her, unable to explain the icy terror that had seized him. The other parents stared, their smiles frozen on their faces. Jennifer rushed to his side, her expression a mixture of confusion and alarm. The party, like the laughter in his dream, died. That night, Jennifer sat on the edge of their bed. "Maybe you should talk to someone," she said softly, "about the memories you sold. Maybe you sold something you shouldn't have." He dismissed it, but the seed was planted. The nightmares grew worse. The guilt became a constant companion. Finally, he relented. He would buy them back. He was successful now. Money was no object. He just wanted the dreams to stop. Nimi Solutions was headquartered in a gleaming tower of glass and steel that promised a brighter, cleaner future. The lobby was a minimalist sanctuary of white marble and calming holographic art. Their slogan was etched on a glass wall. "The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence." His own words, commercialized. He sat across from a cheerful intake coordinator, a young woman with a practiced smile. He explained his situation, his voice calm and measured, betraying none of the desperation that gnawed at him. "Of course, Mr. Cross," she said, her fingers dancing over a holographic interface. "It's a simple retrieval. Let me just pull up your file." Her smile remained, but her eyes tightened for a fraction of a second. It was a micro-expression of panic, a flicker in the placid mask. Daniel, a man who read people for a living, caught it. "Oh," she said, her voice laced with perfect, synthetic sympathy. "That's unusual. I'm so sorry, Mr. Cross. It appears your memory file was part of a data cluster that was irretrievably corrupted during a server migration years ago. There's nothing to retrieve." She was lying. He knew it with an absolute, bone-deep certainty. The feeling was so strong it was like a physical force, a pressure in the air between them. He was being managed, handled, dismissed. He left the building, his frustration curdling into a cold knot of suspicion. As he stepped out into the bustling plaza, a disheveled, paranoid man materialized at his elbow. "They told you it was corrupted, didn't they?" The man, Arthur, rasped, his eyes darting nervously. "The file? That's what they always say." Daniel tried to brush him off, but Arthur grabbed his arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "You're one of us, from the 96 batch. Stop looking. They'll come for you like they came for the others. They're cleaning house." Arthur shoved a crumpled piece of paper into Daniel's hand and vanished into the crowd as quickly as he'd appeared. Daniel smoothed the paper. It was a list of 12 names. Some were crossed out. His own name was near the bottom, untouched. Obsession took root. Daniel's home office, once a model of minimalist order, became a chaotic nest of papers, printouts, and half-empty coffee cups. He found an old, defunct internet forum for Nimi donors, a digital graveyard of forgotten anxieties. A thread from 2019 was titled, "Anyone else from the 1996 batch having nightmares?" He cross-referenced the usernames with Arthur's list. They were a perfect match. His investigation became a nocturnal activity, a secret life lived while his family slept. He was no longer the detached consultant. He was a detective in a mystery where the crime, the victim, and the perpetrator were all unknown. He learned that Michael Torres had died in a mugging gone wrong. Lisa Brennan, in a car accident. James Park had committed suicide. Each death was plausible on its own, but together, They formed a constellation of convenient tragedies. He hired a cynical private investigator named Mason, who confirmed his fears. 3 others from the list had vanished, their digital and physical footprints erased. And one, Saracen, was listed as a missing person, last seen in Oregon. "You're chasing ghosts, Mr. Cross," Mason had told him over a secure line. "Whatever this is, you should walk away." But Daniel couldn't. He had to know what secret was so terrible it was worth killing for. Mason's information led him to a remote, dilapidated cabin nestled deep in the Oregon woods. He found Saracen inside. She was a ghost herself, a gaunt, terrified woman who looked at him with the haunted eyes of a cornered animal. A shotgun leaned against the wall. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered. "I'm like you," he said, his voice hoarse. "The nightmares, the lake." The words were a password. Her shoulders slumped in weary recognition. She had bought her memories back illegally, bribing a technician. She booted up an old, rugged laptop. "I needed to know," she said. "It's degraded, but it's there." We were all at Camp Clearwater in the summer of '96. Something happened. Something with a boy named Marcus Whitmore. The name hit Daniel like a physical blow. Marcus Whitmore, the tech billionaire, the visionary, the man whose global empire included a quiet little subsidiary called Nimi Solutions. Suddenly, Sarah froze. Her head snapped up, listening. "Did you tell anyone you were coming?" "No one." "You didn't have to," she said, her voice trembling. "They track everything." He heard it then, the faint crunch of tires on the gravel road. 2 black sedans, silent and menacing, rolled to a stop outside. Men in tactical gear emerged, moving with the terrifying efficiency of professionals. Sarah grabbed a pre-packed go bag. "They found us. You led them here." They ran. The forest became a blur of green and brown as they crashed through the undergrowth. It wasn't a chase. It was a hunt. A silenced gunshot, a soft thud, echoed through the trees. Sarah cried out and fell, a red stain spreading across her back. She looked at Daniel, her eyes wide with a final, desperate plea. "Run," she gasped. He ran. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs gave out, finally collapsing in a ravine where he hid, shivering with cold and terror, until the sun rose. When he crept back at dawn, the cabin was empty. Sarah's body was gone. The tire tracks were gone. It was as if she, and the events of the previous night, had never existed. He was a changed man. The cool, detached consultant was dead, replaced by a man consumed by fear and a burning need for the truth. He knew he was next. In a grimy motel room that smelled of stale smoke and desperation, he contacted a hacker named Kira. "You want to break into the most secure data archive on the planet?" Her synthesized voice crackled through his laptop. "For a memory, you're either brave or stupid." "Both," Daniel replied. "Can you do it?" The archive was a sterile, white fortress, a temple to forgotten pasts. Guided by Kira's voice in his ear, Daniel moved through the silent, automated corridors, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He found his file's location, not in the general storage, but in a separate,
Physically isolated vault marked Whitmore Priority Perman Retention.
He broke the lock, his hands shaking, and grabbed the small, crystalline data drive. As he turned to leave, the first alarms began to blare. Back in the claustrophobic motel room, Daniel plugged the drive into his laptop. Kira had done her work. "It's open," her voice said. "Good luck." He played the file. The memory loaded, hazy and dreamlike. Camp Clearwater, 1996. He was 8 years old, standing on a wooden dock. There was Marcus Whitmore and another boy, Tommy. Marcus was bullying Tommy, pushing him. Tommy stumbled, his arms windmilling, and fell into the deep water. He flailed, his face a mask of panic. Marcus just watched, his expression blank. Tommy went under. The memory ended. Daniel gasped, a wave of horror and vindication washing over him. He was a witness. Marcus was the killer. He had to be sure. He played it again, looking for details, for evidence. But this time, the scene was different. This time, it was his own small hand that shoved Tommy. Marcus tried to stop him, but it was too late. Tommy fell, drowned. He recoiled from the screen as if struck. He frantically rewound and played it a third time. Now, Tommy just tripped and fell by himself. A fourth time, it was a swimming pool, not a lake. A fifth, Daniel and Marcus were the only ones there. A sixth, the memory was a chaotic mess of digital artifacts, faces distorting, the sound of water replaced by screeching static. He spent 3 days in that room, a prisoner of his own past, watching the memory decay with each viewing. He called Kira, his voice a ragged whisper. The file is broken. It keeps changing. There was a long silence on the other end. Daniel, Kira said finally, her voice stripped of its usual bravado. Memory files aren't video. They're neural maps. They degrade with every access, like a photocopy of a photocopy. And your file has been accessed 247 times. That's impossible. The logs go back 12 years. Kira said softly, always accessed with your biometric signature, your retinal scan, your fingerprint. You've done this before, Daniel, over and over. The world tilted on its axis. He tore his house apart. A man possessed, and found it. A small, innocuous key taped to the underside of his desk drawer. A key he had no memory of. It opened a safety deposit box. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all in his handwriting, all addressed to him. He read the most recent, dated 2 years ago. Daniel, if you're reading this, you've started again. Stop. You can't win. They caught you. They erased you. Protect Jennifer and Emma. Let it go. He read the oldest, from 12 years ago, the handwriting shaky and desperate. His name was Tommy. He drowned. I think I did it. I think Marcus did it. I don't know. The memory is already changing. Don't trust it. Don't trust yourself. He was in a loop, a Mobius strip of trauma. Investigate, discover, get caught, get erased, repeat. The truth was gone, eroded to nothing by his own desperate search for it. He collapsed, the letters fluttering around him like dead leaves, a man utterly broken by a past he could never know. He woke up in a sterile white room. Dr. Evelyn Reese, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a will of iron, sat opposite him. She was the head of Nimi Solutions, the architect of his misery. I'm so sorry it came to this, Daniel, she said, her voice gentle, almost maternal. This obsession, it's a symptom of the trauma, not a cure. You've been fighting your own mind's attempt to heal itself. She showed him a video on a tablet. It was Jennifer and Emma, their faces etched with worry and love. Please come home, Daddy, Emma pleaded. Dr. Reese's words were a soothing balm on his shattered psyche. You can go back to them. You can be happy. We can make the pain stop. For good this time. He looked at the video of his daughter, then at the memory of his own looping failure. The truth was a ghost, but his daughter was real. He made a choice. "Okay," he whispered. "Help me." He was prepped for the erasure. As the technicians made their final adjustments, his hand moved, a flicker of motion so subtle it was almost imperceptible. He palmed a tiny recording device from his pocket and slid it under the cushion of the chair. Or did he? The motion was a ghost, a suggestion, a trick of the light. The procedure began. His eyes closed. 6 months later, it was a perfect summer day. Daniel was in his backyard, playing with Emma. He was laughing, a sound of pure, unburdened joy. The nightmares were gone. He was whole again. He kissed Jennifer, his heart full. Life was good. Late one night, he woke. He walked to his office, the house silent around him. He opened the desk drawer and reached underneath, to the spot where he had once found a key. The camera of his mind held on his face. His expression shifted, a flicker of something unreadable. Was it the dawning horror of recollection? The relief of finding nothing? The confusion of a phantom impulse? His fingers brushed against the smooth, cool wood. There was nothing there. Or was there? In the deep shadows, a tiny red light might have just blinked. Or it might have been a reflection. He couldn't be sure. He stood there for a long moment, a man in a quiet house, listening to the silence. And in the silence, he heard it, faint and distant, a ghost on the edge of hearing, a child's laughter, the crack of breaking glass, the cold, silent rush of water.
That was the memory donor. If you find yourself questioning the edges of your own memory, a scent that brings back a feeling but not a face, a dream that leaves a residue of guilt you can't explain, then you understand the loop Daniel is trapped in. We believe the truth will set us free. But what if the truth is a ghost? What if it's so broken, so corrupted by time and tampering, that it can only haunt, never heal? We tell ourselves we want to know. But sometimes, the most human thing we can do is choose to live with the lie. If this story made you question what's real, hit like. Share it with someone who understands that not all forgotten things are gone. And subscribe for more stories that explore the fragile line between memory and madness, and what it means to be human when your own past is a stranger. Until next time, be careful what you choose to forget.